We're going to walk through how to get a percentile rank with this following data set. I'm going to say we want to look for the score that falls at the 50th percentile. So the first thing we want to do is locate the interval that the 50th percentile would fall in. So if you notice, basically, we're going to look at here is 78%. Well, we know 50% is lower than that. But if we drop down to this interval, it's 49%. So that's too low. So we know it's not in that interval. We know that 50th percentile will fall in this interval here. So this is what we're going to focus on. So our step one, basically, is just to locate that interval. So we know the 12 to 15 scores is where the 50th percentile point will fall. Step two is we want to find the real range. So we're going to take 15, we're going to subtract 12 from it, and then we're going to add 1. That includes the upper and lower real boundaries. Because remember, at the top of 15, it goes to 15.5, and at the bottom of 12 is basically 11.5. That's like that halfway point. So if we get the real range, we have 4. Now hold on to that because we're going to need that. But first we're going to have a couple other steps. Our third step is we're going to find the distance between the upper of that cumulative percent and the percentage point that we want to find. So the upper of that cumulative percent is 78%, and we're going to subtract our 50% from that because that's what we're looking for, is the 50th percentile. We get that difference and we get 28. Okay? Our next step, or step 4 we'll call it, is now we're going to find what the distance is from the upper percent of that interval, 12 to 15, to the bottom of the interval, 12 to 15. Well, again, at the top of 15 is 78% of the data. But at the very bottom, believe it or not, of 12 is 49%, because that's at the top of 11. At 11.5 is 49%. At the bottom of 12 is 49%. So we're going to take the distance between that 78% and 49%. So 78% minus 49%, and we get 29. Now we're going to just find the ratio of that. So that's our step 5. We're going to take basically step 3's answer and divide it by step 4's answer, and we'll get a decimal. So we get 28 divided by 29, which gives us a pretty long decimal, but I'll just put the 0.9655 here. Then we're going to take that decimal and multiply it by the real range that we got up here in step 2. So in our step 6, it's basically multiplying step 5, 9655, times the step 2, which is 4. We end up getting, got like 3.86, okay? Now we're going to take that answer, that 3.86, and we are going to subtract it from the upper real boundary of the interval that we're looking at. So we know the upper limit is 15, but the real boundary where 15 falls, if you had this on a graph, is actually 15.5. So at the very top of that interval you're going to see it at 0.5 above the top. So 15.5 minus our 3.86, and we should get like 11.64. This is the number that falls at the 50th percentile. So you've just worked through all the steps to get a percentile point, utilizing the steps and finding the interval, and your final answer would be 11.64. Now let's just say these scores were, something like people, the number of people or something. How many people have maybe 4 to 7 children, or 8 to 11 children, or 12 to 15 children. There's a lot of children, but let's just say you can't have 11.64 children, right? So if it was something to that where it has to be a whole number, you would round to the whole number of 12. But in this case, I'm just giving you a vague idea of what these are, and I just called them scores. So we'll keep this at the real number. Our real answer would be 11.64. 11.64 is at the 50th percentile point. And that's your final answer. Now you try it on your own on that hybrid activity.